I haven't been around very much, but I can't imagine anything more boring than listening to me talk about videos I didn't make. So instead, this time I'll be talking about how I should have shaved before I recorded this. Thanks to everyone who throws their money into the bottomless pit that is my book buying habit. Hello, and welcome to Matt on Books, where I talk about fantasy mostly, science fiction sometimes, and comics occasionally. This is a wrap-up and looking forward into the month of May. It is already the month of May. I've already started reading my TBR for May. But some interesting things happened in April, so let's look at those first. I've talked in the past about overcommitting, and towards the end of March, Tori, who I like a lot, started poking me about joining the Keymark Readathon for April. And possibly I should have said no, because my experience earlier in the month or earlier in the year was I overcommitted and didn't live up to a lot of those commitments. So being someone with often low impulse control, I said yes. And I joined the Keymark Readathon, and then I kind of panicked. And I organized a TBR that wouldn't be too stressful, that would allow me to keep up with my 2 remaining commitments and get all of the books done. To be honest, I was pretty skeptical about me getting all of those books done. It was only 5 books. I read 5 books every month, at least, usually, depending on how thick they are. But I was still a little skeptical because you may have noticed my motivation hasn't been so high. Luckily, my motivation for reading hasn't been so low, just for recording and editing videos. So Tori actually helped me, recommended a few books, and I managed to squeeze in a book I've been wanting urgently to read and still read a relatively chunky book. So I was kind of proud of myself. I finished the whole readathon. I got the maximum 15 points, and this is what I read. I've mentioned it before. I'm committed to a read along with Philip Chase of the Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. This is the first 2 books. I read the second one, which is called The Claw of the Conciliator. I did a chat, recorded chat with Philip and Paul Williams, who's been reading it with us, and myself. And in that chat, I said that Claw of the Conciliator is more of the same what the fuckery that you get in Shadow of the Torturer, the first book. This is a reread for me, 3rd time, but the first 2 were spread out over 15 or 20 years. So I'm vague on the details. The details in the book are vague anyway. I recommend it, but if you're someone who can't stand to not know what's going on exactly, it's probably not for you. If you're someone who likes amazing world building and interesting characters that you could talk about for hours, and working out a mystery, because a lot of the story up until this point is kind of a mystery. There's a lot of things going on which are not 100% clear. They're hinted at. You get clues here and there. You have to figure a lot out. I remember, and also Paul said it, the 3rd book, a lot more becomes clear. So as a whole, the 4 books, sort of 5 books in the series, you do get a feeling for what's happening, what happened, why it happened, all of that. But you may have to wait for it. But I really enjoyed it. My other commitment is The Realm of the Elderlings, 16 books by Robin Hobb. I'm hosting a read-along. I'm not actually sure if that many people are reading along anymore, or if it's just me. But I'm super enjoying it, and I wanted to continue. So 1 book a month. This month, or last month, April, it was Ship of Magic. This is a big change. The first trilogy is focused on a single character, Fitz Chivalry Farseer, and it's told in first person. So the whole thing is Fitz's perspective, what he experiences. Nothing that he wasn't there for is ever covered, other than he heard it from someone maybe. This one is a big switch. First of all, Fitz is not in it. It goes to an entirely new place, Bingtown, which is a trading town, and there are multiple POVs, 5 or 6, I believe, where it changes every chapter. So it jumps around to different characters, to different places, to different things going on, and it's amazing. It's so good. If you fell in love with Farseer, it's not Fitz and the Fool doing what Fitz and the Fool do, but it is Robin Hobb. So you know that the characters are amazing, the situations are amazing, the world building's amazing. It's an amazing book, and I'm so looking forward to continuing it. It's a trilogy. I'll talk about the next book in the May TBR part. A recommendation from Tori so that I get my readathon books finished. Seasons of Albion by Elan Marché and Christopher Warman is only 204 pages. You can see it's pretty thin. The minimum limit for a book on the readathon was 200 pages. So this just scraped by. It was all right. I didn't fall in love with it. I've heard other people be much more excited about it. It was kind of an odd mix between storytelling, prose style that felt a little bit like a fable or a fairy tale. But there's some really real stuff that happens in this. There is death and mutilation and some pretty nasty things. So it's not a light, cozy read, but it does have a feeling of being kind of a fairy tale. For me, that felt a little at odds with itself in a way. It's an easy read, obviously. It's 200 pages. I think also that the author could have made it maybe twice as long, because a lot of the stories, it's 4 different stories told in the seasons. Each season is pretty short. You get introduced to characters, but you don't get to go into them very deeply. And it just felt like there was potential there that was kind of left on the table and not put in the book. I don't know. It was good. I enjoyed it, but it didn't rock my socks off. Another recommendation from Tori, Never Die by Rob J. Hayes, is a wuxia Asian martial artsy adventure kind of thing. Overall, I really enjoyed this. It has the feeling as if you're reading a novel, which is a manga or something like that. And if you liked Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and other wuxia movies, you probably will like this. There's a lot of action in it. There's a lot of fighting in it. There's a little intriguey stuff going on. I probably would have given this like a solid 4 or 4.5 stars. I ended up giving it 3.5 more, because there's a twist at the end, or near the end, which felt like it kind of invalidated a lot of the things that had happened before it. I don't want to get into details and spoilers. If you've read the book, I'd be happy to chat with you about it. But it's enjoyable. It's definitely fun. It was just this twist at the end. I was like, really? Doesn't that mean then that... Yeah. Didn't feel quite so worked out. Generally, if you're going to have a really dramatic twist at the end, you have to have all of the loose ends tied off. And it didn't feel like it really was, but I enjoyed it. And last but not least, for the readathon, I read The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. It's hard to believe that this is Jimenez's second book, only his second book. This was gifted to me extremely generously and unexpectedly by Evie from She Was Only Evie. She sent it to me for Christmas last year, and ever since then, first of all, I'm in love with the cover. I mean, look at that. And second of all, she raves about it. I mean, she read it last year and then she reread it last year, and now she's thinking about rereading it again. So I tend to trust her opinion. And in this case, I was not disappointed. This is a stunning book. It's atypical. It is not your typical fantasy book, which I love. I love bumping into a book in a genre that I love that doesn't do what everybody else does. It's not to say that it doesn't have any of the fantasy tropes that we know and love. It does, but the writing style is quite a surprise. It takes a little getting used to. The first quarter of the book, I was a little bit confused, and then I got used to the style, and it flowed after that. The style is story wrapped in story, wrapped in story, wrapped in story, sometimes one or two steps further, and it switches quite fluidly between first, second, and third person. That is unusual. I've never read a book that does that. It's a great story. I really, really enjoyed it. It's a love story in parts, but not only and not primarily, I would say. It's kind of a quest story. There are some huge twists in it and lots of crazy wuxia, also wuxia kind of action where there's magic and fighting kind of intermingled. And it's a very Asian-inspired world. I will do a review for this in the future. Keep an eye out for it, but I can highly recommend it. I don't know The Vanished Birds, which is Jimenez's first book, but now that I've read this, I want to read that. The other exciting thing that happened in April, I've been on the Broken Bindings subscription waiting list for 7 or 8 months, I think. And in April, they wrote me and said, there is a place. You can join our Tier 2, I believe it's called, subscription, which this month is, or starting in April, the trilogy of the Bone Ships. I don't remember what the trilogy itself is called. I'll put it on the screen. They are coming out with editions of those, which are super, super sexy. And 10 minutes ago, as I was setting up the equipment to start recording this video, the delivery guy turned up, and I'm about to do an unboxing of the first book that they sent me. I have my dagger. You may remember, if you are a frequent viewer, that I bought this so that I could do unboxings and wouldn't have to use my sword. So, and here's the box. I haven't opened it yet. I'm going to cut it open now. And something that's nice, and the Folio Society does this as well. They wrap their stuff really, really good. It's not like Amazon where your book is pseudo used by the time you get it. They wrap it in this super padding paper. I guess I could have done this before. And inside all that paper, it's in bubble wrap. And inside the bubble wrap, there is a bookmark belonging to the trilogy that I'm getting. I'll not deny the hag my love, let us fly to her in pride. I'll not deny the hag my love, for duty have I died. Yeah. And it's wrapped like a gift. How cool is that? It really feels like a gift, even though I paid for it, obviously. And this is The Tide Child, which is one of the books in the series. It's well wrapped. So, this is the book. And this is the normal, pretty much normal cover. like you would get if you got a paperback. But the cool thing about it, I mean, there are numerous cool things about it. The page edges, when you have the whole trilogy lined up, they make one picture. I'll put a graphic of that on the screen. And it's got some pretty swanky foil debossing on the cover, which is pretty sharp. Spine is sexy as well. It's got very nice end papers. Let's see if they're the same at the back. No, they're different. That's also a nice detail. The end papers in the back. I think this is the picture that goes across the page edges when you put them all together, but I've only got one so far. And wow, nice map as well. It's got some really good art style, and it's by R.J. Barker, which I've heard a number of times is an author worth reading. So I'm looking forward to that. So what does May look like? I started my channel in August last year, so I wasn't aware that May seems to sort of traditionally be a booktube thing where a lot of people say it's mood read May. Totally coincidentally, it has kind of turned into that for me as well, because I overcommitted at the beginning of the year. I've been somewhat stressed and feeling a little weighed down by all of these commitments. I shed a bunch of the commitments. So I'm hosting Realm of the Everlings read-along, and I'm doing the buddy read with Philip Chase, but otherwise I'm not committing to anything right now that last month's readathon is over. So what am I reading in May? It's turning into a bit of a mood read thing. As I said, I'm committed to hosting a read-along of Realm of the Everlings, so I'm moving through the Live Ship Traders trilogy. And I'm, I don't know, third of the way through the Mad Ship. So far, it's just as good as Ship of Magic. It's got characters that I'm loving reading about. I'm already getting a little nervous about the trilogy ending because we won't be spending any more time with all of these wonderful people and a couple of really horrible people. But I'm really, really loving the Mad Ship so far. I also said read along or buddy read with Philip Chase. So this is Sword of the Lictor and Citadel of the Autarch in one book together. I will be starting this after Mad Ship, and we will be doing another chat, which I think will appear on Philip's channel. So keep an eye out for that. I'm looking forward to this because the very strange story that often isn't really clear exactly what's going on or why starts to get a little clearer, and some things are explained and made understandable in the third and fourth books. So looking forward to that. And then for the rest of the month, I'm going to show you some books, but these are not promises. These are not things I'm definitely going to read. These are the things I picked up just before recording this video where I thought I might, in the mood I'm in now, want to read these after those. But I'm not sure. I may pick entirely different books. I like right now, because of all the commitments I've had, having the freedom to just pick up whatever the hell I feel like. So a while ago, I started If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler by Italo Calvino. Very strange book, very meta. It's written in the second person. It often feels like the author is actually talking to you, the reader. Not that you is some sort of character in the novel, but that he really is talking directly to you and telling you that you did these things. Strange book, super exciting. This is a reread. I read it many years ago. The first time I read it, it blew my mind. It was one of those books where you read it and you're like, I've never read anything like that before. I didn't know an author could do that in a book. I'm excited to finish this, maybe this month. Sort of related, Borges. A lot of people have mentioned Borges. He was a favorite author, I believe, of Gene Wolfe. and many other fantasy writers, and he's written some really, really strange and interesting things. This is a very slim short story collection. I thought it was a good place to get started before I get any deeper into Borges. Mike, from Mike's Book Reviews, raves about this. I think he's read it multiple times. Ray Bradbury, absolutely classic science fiction author. This is, as far as I understand, science fiction-y, but kind of more horror. And it's just a classic. And it's one of those books that's on my WHR, my Why Haven't I Read? It's one of those titles that everyone's heard. I think there was a movie made of it. I haven't seen it. But it's just one of those things that feels like I really should have read it a long time ago. And I definitely want to read it soon. Maybe this month. And Piranesi. People's reactions have been very mixed on this. But I talked to Philip Chase about it. I've talked to other people about it, and they loved it. And it sounds, from what it is, like something I would really get into. I think a lot of people didn't like it for the reasons that I probably would like it. So we'll see. That's the reading maybe plan. Collaborations coming up. I want to get back to doing Friends on Books. I was planning on doing one a month, but I've had a bit of a break, and I would like to do one this month, maybe with Dan, the Black and Blue Collared Reader, and Christopher Nava, and Punk Rock Cereal Bowl, the man with the coolest BookTube channel name ever. I will be getting in touch with them. I'm not sure we can schedule it this month, but I do want to get back to Friends on Books. Those chats are a lot of fun, and it seems like you enjoy them as well. So I really want to get back to doing that. Otherwise, I'm still aiming to do kind of a video a week for right now. My motivation is growing, but it's not quite where it was a couple of months ago. So stick around for that. Hopefully I won't lose you all by doing so few videos. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for watching. I hope you're well. I hope you're reading awesome books like I am. And I'll see you next time.